Hi friends, today we are going to see the past year NEET questions for the chapter Respiration in Plants. And today in this video we will cover part 1. Okay, so this is a new chapter that we are beginning. So let's move with the first question here. Now this question was asked in the year 2013. Okay, which of the metabolites is common to respiration mediated breakdown of fats, carbohydrates and proteins? Okay, so before we go directly into the solution, let us discuss what is respiration in biology. So what is respiration? How can you consider the process as? Respiration is a biochemical process. Okay, respiration is a biochemical process. What else you can say about that? It's a biochemical process in which cells of an organism obtain energy by combining oxygen and glucose, resulting in the release of carbon dioxide, water. So what all gets released? Water, carbon dioxide and ATP. Okay, ATP is the energy source of a system, of a living cell. So that is obtained by metabolism, and that metabolism plays the very important play for metabolism is respiration. Okay, so here you have 4 options here. Which of the metabolites is common to respiration mediated breakdown of all the following: fats, carbohydrates and proteins? So you have 4 options here: fructose 1,6-biphosphate, pyruvic acid, acetyl-CoA, then you have glucose 6-phosphate. Okay. Out of the 4 options given now, the correct answer goes to acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA is common to respiration mediated breakdown of fats, carbohydrates and proteins. Fats are broken down into, so what is a simpler form of fats? Fatty acids, right? Fatty acids and glycerol. So fatty acids plus glycerol is got by breaking down fats. Okay, and finally they are degraded to acetyl-CoA. Protein first gets degraded to protease and then it moves into amino acids. Likewise, carbohydrates will get further they'll get reduced into sugars, glucose or whatever it might be. Therefore, the breakdown of these macromolecules of fats, carbohydrates, proteins that we intake in the form of macromolecules will be broken down with the help of acetyl-CoA. Other than that, if you want some more information about acetyl-CoA, so you must have heard about the the cycle, the TCA cycle and all that, right? Acetyl-CoA is also called as acetyl coenzyme. The other name, okay, is a molecule that participates in many biochemical reactions in protein, carbohydrates and lipid metabolism, as we saw now. Its main function is to deliver the acetyl group to the citric acid cycle. So it's also called as Krebs cycle. Okay, it's also called as Krebs cycle. So this we all know. So what happens here is, once it is attained to the Krebs cycle, it will be oxidized for energy production. What we get it in the form of ATP. Okay, therefore the correct answer to this question is option C, acetyl-CoA. Okay, now let's move to the next question here. So this is a process, this is a pathway that they have given you. You need to identify them. Okay, the 3 boxes in this diagram represents the 3 major biosynthetic pathway in aerobic respiration. Arrows represent net reactants or products. What do you mean by aerobic and anaerobic? There is a difference, right? Now aerobic respiration can be defined a respiration process with the presence of oxygen. Okay, anaerobic respiration is without the presence of oxygen. Okay, so that is termed as anaerobic. Aerobic is a process which takes place with the presence of oxygen. Now coming to the pathway, you have A, B and C that you need to name, right? You have A, B and C. Here the arrows represent the net reactants or the products. In the given diagram, it is an aerobic respiration that they have given you a hint. The pathway A is glycolysis, pathway B is Krebs cycle and pathway C is ETS. What do you mean? What is the full form of ETS? Any idea? I told you what is acetyl-CoA, what is the important features, what is the how it plays an important role in the TCA cycle. ETS cycle is the electron transport chain. Okay, electron transport cycle, it's called as electron transport cycle. Okay, that is the full form for ETS. Now path A represents glycolysis, path B represents TCA, and path C represents ETS cycle. So overall, okay, overall what is the output you get from this? 4, 8 and 12 are ATP. Which one they are talking about? 4, 8, so here it is 4, then you have 8 and 12, they are ATP. Okay, ATP. ATP acts as an energy currency. The energy is trapped from the ATP and it is broken down whenever and wherever it needs to be utilized. So here the question clearly tells us, they have given us 3 boxes. The arrow represents the net reactants and the products. So you have 3 reactants, I mean the products at here, 1 arrow here, second and the third arrow here. All are liberating ATP, which is utilized for the process. Therefore, the correct answer to this question is option A, ATP. If you look at the rest of the options that are given in the question here, they are the intermediates that come in the pathway. They are not the end products. So, therefore, the correct answer is ATP. Next question here. This question was asked in the year 2006. The bacterium Clostridium botulinum that causes botulism is dash. What is it? Now, before we go into the solution, what is Clostridium botulinum? It is called, the name of the organism is Clostridium botulinum. It is a gram-positive rod. Okay, it is a gram-positive rod-shaped bacteria. It will be like this. Okay, and this is an anaerobic bacteria. It forms spores. It is a motile bacterium with the ability to produce. What does it produce? It produces an important toxin which is responsible to cause botulism in living organisms. Okay, the main toxin that it produces is called as neurotoxin, which is really toxic to living beings. So here I've given you a brief introduction of what is Clostridium botulinum. This is a gram-positive rod-shaped bacteria. It is actually anaerobic. It is a spore-forming motile bacterium with the ability to produce a toxin called as neurotoxin, which causes botulism in living organism. Okay. Botulism is a rare but serious illness caused by the toxin that attacks the body's nerves and causes difficulty in breathing, muscle paralysis, and sometimes even death when it is unnoticed. Okay. Now I've given you a hint. Is it an obligate anaerobe, or is it what you can say? Is it an obligate anaerobe? Is it a facultative anaerobe, or is it a facultative aerobe? Obviously, it is not aerobe. It is an anaerobe. Okay. So the correct answer to this question is option A, an obligate anaerobe. Clostridium botulinum is an obligate anaerobe, and it is normally seen in the absence of oxygen. Facultative anaerobes are those who generally live in oxygen but may live without oxygen also. So obligate means they are pure. Okay, they never require oxygen at all. Facultative in the sense they have an if they have the presence of oxygen, they can also survive. It is not necessary there should be 100% oxygen nil. Okay, if they have oxygen, they can actually survive, and they can survive without oxygen also. When I say obligate, it is pure, it is lone, it is only for that. So it is an obligate anaerobe where it does not require even a pinch of oxygen. Therefore, the correct answer to this question is option A, an obligate anaerobe. Next question. This question was asked in the year 1999. Net gain of ATP molecules during aerobic respiration. This is a very easy question for you. You are given 4 options: 36, 40, 38 and 48. The correct answer is 36. Okay, 38 molecules of ATP are produced during aerobic respiration. Of these, 2 ATP are used in the link reaction. So many will get confused here. Okay, overall the production will be 38. Okay, overall production will be 38. But out of this 38, 2 will be used for the link reaction, which is a part of the cycle. Okay, it will be used for the link reaction. Therefore, the net gain, that is the overall, after the whole process is completed, the net gain that you get is only 36. Many get confused here because if we don't study it clearly and properly, we all will conclude with 38, but the correct answer is 36. Always remember, 36 molecules are only the net gain of ATP molecules during aerobic respiration. Okay, the correct answer is option A, 36. Now you have the ATP molecule structure here. Can you see the structure there? So this is how it will be in a structure form, the molecular formula. Okay, next question. This question was asked in the year 1997. Site of respiration in bacteria is dash. Okay, now you're given 4 options here. Okay, now we'll go one option by option. What do you mean by episome? How can you describe it? So first option is episome, right? Episome can be described as a portion of genetic material that can exist independent of the main body of genetic material. So episome is concerned with the genetics. Therefore, the answer is not episome. Okay, so I'll write it here so that will be clear for you. Episome is concerned with genetics. Therefore, that is not the answer. Now, what do you mean by ribosome? Ribosome, we've already discussed a lot about it. It is a site for RNA synthesis and protein synthesis. Okay, so once again, that is not the answer for respiration in bacteria. Now, before going into mesosome, what do you mean by microsome? What do you mean by microsomes? Have you ever heard about it? See, microsomes are the fragment of endoplasmic reticulum that are attached to the ribosomes obtained by centrifugation of homogenized cells. So once again, this does not talk about respiration. Therefore, the correct answer to this question is mesosomes. Okay, what is the right answer? Mesosome. Now, what do you mean by mesosome? Does eukaryotes have mesosome? Does eukaryotes have mesosome? See, mesosomes are folded invaginations in the plasma membrane of bacteria that are produced by the chemical fixation techniques that are used to prepare samples for electron microscopy. So this is the general information that I'm giving you, but apart from that, to tell, these are folds, or you can call it as invaginations. Mesosomes are the invaginations of the plasma membrane that can form into, what do they form? They form vesicles. Okay, they are found to be present in both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Mesosomes may also play a role in the cell wall formation and sometimes even help in the cell division process. Okay, so therefore the correct answer to this question is mesosomes. So I've clearly told you what is episome, ribosome, microsome. Why you don't have that answer? Why you don't have that as an answer? So the correct answer to this question is option C, mesosome. So here I have given you a picture which tells you what is mesosome in prokaryotic cells. In prokaryotic cells, special membranous structures called as mesosomes are found, and it is formed by the extension of the plasma membrane into the cell. So where do you see mesosome here? Here you see, right? The mesosomes help in respiration and secretion process. The mesosome also help to increase the surface of the plasma membrane, as they are nothing but foldings. Okay, so they will increase the surface area. Therefore, the correct answer to this question is option C. Now, let's move to the next question here. Again, this is an easy question for you which was asked in the year 1994. Maximum amount of energy or ATP is liberated on oxidation of which macromolecule? Okay, so you're given 4 options here: fats, starch, proteins and vitamins. See, proteins, vitamins, starch, of course, when it is referring to a plant cell, it is okay. But predominantly, if you see, maximum amount of energy or ATP that is liberated by oxidation, when you come to proteins and vitamins, we don't take it in high quantity. If you remember, we don't take them in high quantities. Vitamins and all will be in trace amounts that we take, right? So, fats are used as respiratory substrates by a number of organisms. As I already said, in the process of respiration, very, very important, the metabolic pathway, it involves fats, where fats will get converted into fatty acids and glycerol, right? We saw this, and we also saw that This fatty acids and glycerol, when it is used during the metabolic pathway, they help in the conversion and thereby release ATP. Therefore, the correct answer is fats. Fats are used as respiratory substrates by the number of organisms because they contain more energy than carbohydrates. We all know metabolism is nothing but the respiration process that we take in. Okay, the food that we eat has fats, the food that we eat has proteins, the food that we eat has a lot of vitamins, all that is there. But apart from all the sources that we intake, fats has the energy, fats has the capability which can liberate more amount of ATP. Okay, the correct answer is option A, fats. So you have a picture which shows the healthy fats. What are the fats that you can intake in your daily diet? Okay, next question here. Again, this question was asked in the year 1994. Respiratory substrate yielding maximum number of ATP molecule is. Again, this is an easy for you because last question only we saw during respiration or anything which has the capability to expel out maximum amount of ATP, we saw fats, right? Likewise, respiratory substrate that will yield maximum amount of ATP. Okay, now here you're given 4 options. Okay, ketogenic amino acids, glucose, amylose and glycogen. So all 4, the first one is a protein. Of course, we did not see about protein. See, the first place goes to fats. Okay, always remember that. The first place stands for fats. First place. So here in the 4 options, you don't have any fats. Okay, so the next place goes to carbohydrates in the liberation of ATP. Always remember the first place goes to fats and the second place goes to carbohydrates. Now in the 4 options you have predominantly carbohydrates. First option is meant for amino acid, which means it's a protein. We saw in the earlier question that proteins are in trace amounts, and when it comes to energy expellation, they will not give much energy output. So now the second place goes to carbohydrates. Now out of the 3 options there, glucose, amylose and glycogen. So what could be the answer you think? The correct answer is glucose. See, firstly amylose and glycogen are converted to glucose. Okay, these 2 things, they are already going to be converted in the form of glucose, which is a monosaccharide. I told you whatever macromolecules that we intake has to be converted into a simpler form so that the body can absorb it and use it for the purpose of the cell or survival of the organism. Likewise, this amylose and glycogen will not remain as such in your body. Therefore, these will get converted into a simpler form, which is glucose. Therefore, the correct answer to this question is glucose. As I told you, fats get the first place in the liberating ATP. The second place goes to carbohydrate. Here you don't have any option which will resemble or refer to fats. Therefore, you should look for the next option which belongs to carbohydrate. Now out of the 4 options, A option will get expelled because it belongs to protein, which cannot be taken. Now rest of the 3 options, if you see, C and D already they have to be converted into a simpler form because body cannot take it as such. Therefore, C and D is also expelled from the answer. Therefore, the correct answer is glucose. Deamination of ketogenic amino acids occur and these enter the respiratory catabolism as intermediates. Okay, therefore the correct answer to this question is option B. Can you understand? I hope you understand. Fine. Next question, this was asked in the year 1993. Life without air would be. So this is a very easy question for you, right? I told you when there is a presence of oxygen in the atmosphere, we call that as aerobic respiration or aerobic atmosphere. It's just the opposite. Life without air would be anaerobic. Okay, therefore the correct answer is option D, anaerobic. In anaerobic respiration, oxygen is not used for breakdown of respiratory substrate. Very important thing to be noted. Therefore, the correct answer to this question is option D. I think this is a very easy question so far that we have seen. Okay, next question here. This question was asked in the year 1992. End products of aerobic respiration are. Okay, even this we saw in the earlier question, not in the earlier question, in the very beginning of this part we saw, I think, water. These things are all liberated. What are the things that we saw? If you remember easily, aerobic respiration liberates 3 things. What all we saw? We saw water, carbon dioxide and ATP, that is energy. Therefore, the correct answer is option C. Aerobic respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen. and the metabolic pathway also takes place in the presence of oxygen, where the breaking down of substrate or the substance also take place in the presence of oxygen. So here if you see the energy release, which is in the form of ATP, okay, that is mainly acquired by the process of or by the involvement of oxygen. So here if you see, once it goes into complete oxidation, it will liberate three elements. As I said, one is carbon dioxide, one is actually ATP, that is energy, and the other is water. Okay, so this we already discussed in the very beginning of the part, if you remember. So the correct answer to this question is option C. Next question here. This question was asked in the year 2017. Phosphophenol pyruvate, which is abbreviated as PEP, is the primary carbon dioxide acceptor in dash plants. So you have four options here, right? So out of the four options, see, in mesophile cells, what do you mean by mesophile? You have to know that, only then you'll be able to answer. What is mesophile? See, mesophile can be described as the inner tissue of parenchyma. So what is it? The inner tissue of parenchyma. Okay. So when I say parenchyma, it belongs to a leaf, which contains the chloroplast mainly. Okay, the mesophile is a name given to the two layers of the cell inside the plant leaves. The first layer is located under the epidermis, but the above second layer is the palisade of parenchyma cells. This layer is indunated with loads of chloroplast, making it the layer most directly responsible for photosynthesis. The correct answer to this question is option A, C4 plants. Okay, in the mesophile cell, cytoplasm of C4 plants like sugarcane, I'm giving you examples here. C4 plants include sugarcane, maize, sorghum, etc., where the phosphophenol pyruvate is a primary carbon dioxide acceptor. Therefore, the correct answer to this question is option A, C4 plants. So, I've clearly told you what is mesophile. Only if you know what is mesophile, you'll be able to answer this question. Right? Fine. Next question, which was asked in the year 2014. Okay, let's read it here. In which one of the following processes carbon dioxide is not released? So which process you don't have any carbon dioxide release? So you're given four options here: aerobic respiration in plants, or aerobic respiration in animals, alcoholic fermentation, and lactate fermentation. Aerobic respiration in plants and animals will obviously have carbon dioxide, because we already saw what are the results or what are the end products of oxidation. We already saw what all we saw: water, carbon dioxide, and energy. Therefore, option A and B is excluded. Now, alcoholic fermentation will compulsory have carbon dioxide liberation. Okay, because there, if you see, when you do alcoholic fermentation, mostly it will be a closed system where there will be the presence of oxygen in a very low amount. So there will be a lot of carbon dioxide in it. Now, coming to lactate fermentation, or you can call it as lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation, it occurs with the help of the bacteria called as lactobacillus. Right, it's a rod-shaped bacteria and muscles of human. Pyruvic acid produced in glycolysis is reduced in the form of NADH2, okay, to form lactic acid without producing carbon dioxide. So which process does not involve carbon dioxide production is lactate fermentation, and there you have the process. So you have the lactic acid plus NADH2 in the presence of lactate dehydrogenase. This is the enzyme, okay, which will help in the breakdown. So it produces lactic acid plus NAD, but you don't have any carbon dioxide liberation. Therefore, the correct answer is option D, lactate fermentation. Okay, next question. The energy releasing metabolic process in which substrate is oxidized without an external electron acceptor is called as dash. Again, this is an easy question for you. See, here they are talking about the energy releasing metabolic process. The substrate is oxidized without an external electron acceptor. See, when there is no external acceptor, it cannot be glycolysis, it cannot be aerobic respiration, it cannot be photorespiration, because all these processes have contact with the atmosphere and it happens in the open space. What are the processes which take place in the open space? Glycolysis. See, I'm sorry here. Okay, glycolysis, aerobic respiration and photorespiration, they all take in the presence of air or atmosphere. Okay, therefore you will have the exchange of electron transport, which will be there for sure. Now when you take fermentation, let me give you an example here. There are people who produce wine from home and all that. We do home production also. So what do? You put in all the ingredients and you will close the system and keep in order for it to ferment. Now when you close and keep, there is no contact with the atmosphere at all. And how will the exchange take place now? You don't have any external source entering into it. Therefore, the correct answer to this question is fermentation. Okay, the energy releasing metabolic process in which the substrate is oxidized without an external acceptor is fermentation, where there is purely no contact with the outer atmosphere. Okay, now let's move to the next question here. Okay, aerobic respiratory pathway is appropriately termed as. So what can you term the aerobic respiration pathway? Aerobic, I said it is in the presence of oxygen, right? All energy releasing pathways, whether aerobic or anaerobic, begin with a pathway called as glycolysis. Very, very important. Okay, it's an essential process also, which occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell. Where does this occur? In the cytoplasm of the cell. Aerobic respiratory pathway is therefore appropriately termed as amphibolic. Amphibolic means what? Twice, 2 times. Okay, that is, it shows 2 characteristics. Aerobic respiration is the main energy releasing pathway leading to the ATP formation, and it occurs in mitochondria. Aerobic respiratory yields about how many molecules the net gain would be? It is overall 36. So here it is very understood, it is amphibolic, that is, it happens in mitochondria, it happens in cytoplasm. Whether it is aerobic or anaerobic, the process begins with glycolysis. Since it is representing 2 or 3 characteristics, you represent it as amphibolic. The correct answer is option B. Next question here, which was asked in the year 2008. The energy releasing process in which the substrate is oxidized without an electron acceptor. Okay, without an external electron acceptor is called as dash. So here, see, the question is wrong. The energy releasing process in which the substrate is oxidized with an electron acceptor is called as dash. Okay, I'll tell you the answer here. Glycolysis takes place in all body cells and it is of 2 types. As we already said, any process, if you see, be it aerobic or anaerobic, with the presence of oxygen or without the presence of oxygen. See, they have made a mistake here. If you clearly look here, it is with an external acceptor, okay, electron acceptor. Because earlier we saw a question where they spoke about this particular sequence where we mentioned without the external electron acceptor. So here it is with the electron acceptor. Okay, so without, that out is mistakenly typed there, so you don't have to worry about that. See, the energy releasing process in which the substrate is oxidized with an electron acceptor is called as glycolysis. Now when I take glycolysis, this process takes place with the help of electron acceptor, and this exchange is a must. Be it aerobic or anaerobic, the process will happen. And the first thing that any process will undergo is called as glycolysis. Apart from that, what you can explain about glycolysis is, glycolysis will release, the end product will give you 36 molecules of ATP. It's a metabolic pathway that converts glucose into pyruvate and hydrogen ion. The free energy which is released in this process is used to form the high energy molecule ATP and NADH. So glycolysis actually can be described as an enzyme catalyzed reaction. So this with an electron acceptor is the option D, glycolysis. Okay, so don't get confused here. It's just the out that has to be crossed over. The correct answer with an electron acceptor is glycolysis. Okay, next question here. How many ATP molecule could maximally be generated from one molecule of glucose if the complete oxidation of 1 mole of glucose to carbon dioxide and water yields 686 kilocalories, and the useful chemical energy available in the high energy phosphate bond of 1 mole of ATP is 12 kilocalories. Okay, now look at this question. Seems to be very big, but it is very important that you understand the question. Only then you will be able to answer. Now let's read the question again. How many ATP molecules could maximally be generated from 1 molecule of glucose? Okay, so here we are asking the question of how many ATP molecules could be generated from 1 molecule of glucose. If the complete oxidation of 1 mole of glucose to carbon dioxide and water yields about 686 kilocalories. And then you have 12 kilocalories of ATP also. They have given the 1 mole of ATP also. Now, 12 kilocalories of energy present in 1 molecule of ATP and on oxidation of 1 mole of glucose into carbon dioxide and water, energy is released is 686. So, number of ATP which can store this energy would be, what is it? Any idea? It is 57.1. Okay, since it is 57.1, you have to round it up, which becomes 57. So what is the answer here for this question? It is 57, option B. Okay, apart from this, see, they have given you two values here, 686 and 12 kilocals. So the number of ATP which can store this energy would be 57.1. Apart from this, do you understand the calculation that they have mentioned here? See here, they are given you the values, right? They have given you the values. They have given you two values here. So what you just need to do here is, you just have to take 686, which is divided by 12, which gives you 57.166, so on. So which is almost 57.2. The correct answer is 57. You just have to divide the answer and see. So you'll get the number of ATP molecules. Therefore, the correct answer is 57, option B. Okay. So with this, we complete the part 1 of respiration in plants for chapter. So we will all meet in the next video. Okay. Thank you for watching.